Welcome to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost with me, Charly Leetham. If you're a small business owner looking to simplify technology and get real, actionable advice from someone with 35 years of IT experience, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll dive into tools and systems like email, CRM, marketing and tracking, and I'll break them down into bite-sized tips you can use straight away. Your time is valuable, so let's get straight to the point. It's time to work smarter, not harder. Rise and shine. It's your dose of business tech inspiration with me, Charly Leetham. Episode number 625. And we're going to be talking about spam. Not the tin of stuff that some of us like to eat. Some people like to eat. I'm not going to say I like to eat spam, but the stuff that ends up in your mailbox, the stuff that ends up in your sign-up forms, your newsletter subscriptions, that sort of spam. The spam that we don't like. The spam that no one likes. It's not just annoying. It's not just wasting time getting spam messages in. If you have got people who are subscribing to your newsletters through your forms, you've got spam bots subscribing to your newsletters through your newsletter forms, you're actually going to be impacting your ability to send messages from your mail provider. So if you've got a lot of spam submissions going in, and you inadvertently send out a newsletter to all of them and then you get a whole heap of bounces, you're going to get penalized for that because they're not real addresses. Your bounce rate goes up. The mail provider looks at it and says, you've been a bad girl, Charly. You shouldn't have sent those messages to all those people. And before you know it, your account's been suspended pending review. No, it hasn't happened to me, thank goodness, but it has happened to others. So I am talking from experience on behalf of other people. It's also even just having people adding to your list. And if you're doing double opt-in and you're sending out that opt-in messages to them, the mail providers, your email service providers still actually look at those opt-in messages going out and say, you're sending out an awful lot of opt-in messages and not getting a lot of responses. What's going on here? And so they actually do monitor that. So spam is not just a problem because you're getting junk into your inboxes. It's filling up your inboxes. It's a real problem in terms of ongoing business continuity. Over the last year, across pretty much every industry, from local trades to online retailers, we have seen a really sharp spike in bot submissions to our forms. They're not just random nonsense messages anymore. They look like real. They look real, and they look like they have believable names and emails. If you were to actually dig into the messages a little and have a really good look at the names and email addresses, you'd find that there's hints there, but they're not like they used to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, carrot, whatever, those really ridiculous email names. They've actually got names on them, and then they've got numbers after them generally. You can tell that they're spam addresses, but it's really hard to pick them against the real ones. So for years, and I still do recommend it, put invisible fields onto our forms so that when a bot comes along, that invisible field is only seen by the bots. It's invisible to us on the web form, but it's visible to the bot, and the bot fills it out, and our codes, our fail safes go, that's been filled in, that's a spam, that's a bot, get rid of it. We're not going to submit it, we're not going to send it. And it has been working beautifully until recently. Now I have a saying: if you build a better mousetrap, you're going to get smarter mice. The bots are getting smarter, and they're also getting more human. Now, bots can read websites the way we do. Bots can read websites the way we do. They move through forms, pause, even fake typing patterns. Sometimes, some can even tell which fields are fake and skip them and submit the form perfectly. So we're getting, I guess it's a side effect of AI, but even if it's not a side effect of AI, it's people understanding how to code in human-like behaviors. So some of the things that we check for, and if you're using CAPTCHA, this is one of the things that CAPTCHA does, is it actually profiles the user as they move through your site. So they look at things like, how long are they pausing on a page before they go down and fill in the form? How long do they take to fill in the form? Uh, what are they typing? And they can't see exactly what it's typing, but they get the feeling that they're typing something. They get the feeling that they're looking at things. They can see how long they're spending. They can see how they're moving through the page. And CAPTCHA profiles all of that and says, you're not profiling like a real human. Let me give you a challenge response. And that's when you get that pop-up that says, tick all the boxes, tick all the bikes, tick all the, select all the staircases, select all the cars, those things here. Now, this is one reason I don't like using CAPTCHA, by the way, because I don't think our websites should be putting the onus back onto our visitors to prove they're human. This is our problem. We should be doing as much as we can before we go to those sorts of processes. There is enough that stops people submitting forms to us, signing up to newsletters, sending us contacts to ask us questions, that we don't really want them to have to go through this whole process of doing a CAPTCHA. I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, but it's okay, it only takes a few minutes, but it's a few minutes. And it does turn some people off. So the bots, though, they're starting to check that, and they're starting to actually circumvent the fact that that challenge will be given as well. So they look real, they act real enough that they're getting through all of these measures we do. Now, everyone is doing it. Big platforms like Salesforce and WordPress are saying it out loud. The bots have evolved. Honeypots, those invisible traps that we're setting, are now just speed bumps. They're not stops. And it's not just honeypots, those invisible fields we're putting on. There's other things we put on those forms that slow the bots down. They're getting around them. This week, I have seen 3 separate sites. I've worked on 2 separate sites, and I've seen the third one asking, how do I stop this? I'm seeing a real increase. And you go through it all, you're doing everything right. So I've spent a lot of time in this last 2 weeks just going through and redoing all of my SOPs, redoing all of my approaches on how to stop this. Now, I think at the moment we've got them beat. We'll see how long it takes for them to circumvent that and work out another way around it. Okay, so I'm just checking my notes here. Sorry, I don't mean to say Yep, we've covered that. Yeah, this is the other part that I should mention, is they've memorized the look of popular forms. Now, by the look of popular forms, I mean how they appear programmatically. So if you go and do an inspect source on your website, or have a look at the page source on your website, you've got a form tag, and then you've got the layouts of the fields, and then you've got the close form tag. The bots, and I'm surprised it's taken them this long to be perfectly honest, but they've worked out what an AWeber form looks like. They've worked out what a Mailchimp form looks like. They've worked out what a HubSpot form looks like. They've worked out how standard contact forms look, and they know how to get around them. They know the things they've been working on. For example, AWeber uses a process called addlead.pl. That's when you submit your form, the request is sent out to addlead.pl. And that does a whole heap of things as well. And these bots have worked out how to circumvent that as well, how to use that and in its process to get around it. It's been quite a couple of weeks for me. They've also learned to slow them down so they look human. Now, I said that before, but I really need to sort of highlight that one again. It used to be that bots would hit a site and go, oh, there's a form on that site, submit, 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 submit. And it would just run a script, and it would just, in a minute, it would do, 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 100 submissions on that form in a short period of time. They don't anymore. They've slowed it down. I was actually seeing one group of IP addresses send a request every 30 minutes. Now, it wasn't the same IP address, so I couldn't block the IP address. In fact, blocking IP addresses is it's problematic because they just change the IP address. Well, we're blocked on that one. New one. We'll go and try it again. That's been a problem for years now. So they've learned to slow down. They've learned to mimic human behavior. They've learned the look of popular forms. So a lot of the things we've been doing just aren't working anymore. So what do we do about it? How do we manage this? And this is where it gets really sort of tricky because there's no one answer. But I'm going to give you a few things to think about. I'm going to say stack your defenses. That's what I've had to do recently. You just don't rely on one trick. Think of it like locking up your office. You wouldn't rely on just one lock. You'd have a few layers. So, you might lock the front door, but if you've got an office area, you might also within your office building, you might also lock your office area. If you've got a secure area in the office area, you would lock that as well. So now you've got 3 layers of defense there. You turn on an alarm system. You might have a CCTV or video surveillance as well. So you've got a whole heap of defenses there to protect your office building or your office and your office building. Forms are not much difference. We can keep our hidden field trap field. And that still works to a degree, but we need to then layer that on top of other things. Timing checks to spot too fast submissions. So real people can take a few seconds to fill out a form. If something hits submit in under a second, it's probably a bot. So once the form is loaded, if it gets filled out real quick, you've probably got a reasonable bet, yeah, it's probably reasonable. I'm just trying to work out the word to put in there. It's probably reasonable to assume that is a bot. So setting timing checks on that is important. Not just how often they submit it, but how quickly does it take them to submit that form. Change how your form works so bots can't reuse it. This was something that I had to work out because for example, using AWeber forms, you have to use their form. You can't take input from one form and then format it and send it off to AWeber. You have to use their process to send it. That's one way they make sure that you've got permission. You've got that implied consent, the explicit consent to send this person an email. But that makes it really difficult when you're trying to do these sorts of things to mitigate problems. So change how your forms work so bots can't reuse it. Add a small piece of code that changes every time your form loads. If the submission doesn't have the right code, it's rejected. Invisible to your customers. The bots can see it, but it will still block them because when they reuse that same form, it says, nope, that form's gone. Think of it like a security code, one like your 2-factor authentication, in fact. It puts that on there. It saves that somewhere. When the form reloads, that's cleared and the new one, or when that form is submitted, that's cleared. So when they reuse that form, because they've copied that form, that's what bots do. They come along, they see the form on the page, take a copy of it, and then just keep hitting it. They don't hit the new one on the page, generally. I'm not going to say that that's the only way they do it, but that's a generalization. You can use challenges that don't annoy people as well. So I have gone to using things like Cloudflare's Turnstile widget. So, when you go to a site now and it's got that little thing and it spins for a bit and then it puts a tick in it, that's I'll almost guarantee you that's Cloudflare's Turnstile. If not, it's something similar. And what that does a lot of the profiling I spoke about before. It looks at how you've hit the site. It looks at the way you're formatting your data requests to the site, looks at your IP address, and it says, in my estimation, you're not a bot, and it checks the box for you. If it can't determine that you're not a bot, it will then actually give you a challenge. So it might pop up a box then and say, I'm sorry, you haven't pass the check. Very rarely, I had it because I was testing and I triggered it because I was reloading the page too fast. So you can absolutely use something like the Turnstile widget. It's a lightweight capture, if you like. I like it. I've been putting it in. It's working perfectly well. The other thing with the Turnstile is it doesn't just check when you hit that form. There's also a check we do when we submit the form to say, just confirm that we've got the right codes in place. Does this match? Has something changed? And if something's changed, it's gone, nah, you're a bot. We're gonna block you. So Turnstile or something similar is really, really good. The other thing that I have looked at is with services like Cloudflare, we can set up a series of rules that look at that protect a particular submission. So in one case, I've said, okay, I've got this is the URL for my form submit. Look at this URL, do all these checks, make sure everything matches. And if it doesn't, they can't submit the form. So there are rules that you can set on Cloudflare as well. So we've now got multiple layers of protection. And this is the point that I wanted to get to. It's not just enough to put a spam plugin on anymore. Or a spam protection. Even if you're not running a WordPress site, there's things that you were doing on your own forms. It's not just enough. You now need to have multiple levels of checking to try and trip them up. If you can just think of it, making it harder to submit the form, they're going to go away. The last thing that I'm going to try to do and work out how to get it done is have that all logged to a file on my web server. And so I'm not going to worry about the Cloudflare side of things because Cloudflare is doing that for me. But if they get through to my server and they're doing it, I'm going to start logging the IP addresses to my server and using something like fail to ban, which will actually say this IP address has been banned permanently. They can't access the website or for a certain amount of time and let it time out, and then they can come back. But normally they've moved on to a new IP address by that point. So there's, like I said, there's layers and layers and layers that you can be doing. It's not as simple though as, well, we're just going to put on a Kismet and we're just going to put on CAPTCHA. We're just going to do this. There's so much going on now that we do need that layered protection. I guess where I really wanted to, I keep saying and I am sorry. I guess the other thing I wanted to just sort of finalize on all of this is you don't want to slow your site down by putting anti-spam measures on your site and having it on every page of your site. That's what one process out there does that. It starts as soon as a visitor hits the site, starts profiling them, it starts looking at how they're moving through the site. So if they get through to the contact form and want to submit the contact form, we've profiled you. Now the problem with that is that that's pulling data off of another site. That's pulling the scripting off of another site. Each time a new page loads, that script's loaded down from another site, so it slows down your site. It adds load to your site. We want to try and avoid that because we want our sites to load quickly. We want them to be smooth and easy for people to use. I stopped using that process when I was doing some speed tests and looking at, people were saying to me, our sites are so slow. We don't understand why. And we're being told by the page speed tests and all of that our site is slow, but we can't see why. And when I got into it, it's all these third-party scripts that are being loaded and drawn down from another server that are getting in the way. So we have to evolve. We have to be smart about how we're doing it. And the way I like to do it is to put the onus back onto the people, back onto the processing. I want to try and keep as much of it behind the scenes so that I am not impacting legitimate visitors to the site, but we're still protecting our business. We're still protecting our data, and in the long run, we're still protecting the visitors to our site because we're only allowing legitimate stuff to get through. All right, that's a kind of a long-winded one. Spam is not nice. It's not easy to deal with. If you think you are seeing an uptick in the amount of spam submissions you're getting from forms, from comment, and by forms, by the way, I should have said this right up front. By forms, I don't just mean your newsletter submission form or your contact form. Might be that you're getting a lot of comments on your WordPress website, a lot of spam comments on your WordPress website, and they're rubbish. You're like, where are these coming from? That's a form. You might be noticing people trying to log in a lot to your site. If you've got login detection on your site and it's saying, look, these people are trying to log in, they keep failing, that could also be it. I mean, it's also that one's also are they just trying to hack the site, or is it just it's a form that they found and they're just trying to submit it to see what they can get out of it? Um, I think that's it, guys. I'm a little tired because I've just spent like 2 weeks going through all this on a couple of sites, just trying to tie them down. Having a look today, it looks like we have beaten it. It looks like we've managed to secure it sufficiently. I'm going to keep monitoring it, and we'll see what else comes up. It's always fun. Being in IT is always fun, and as I said, if you build a better mousetrap, you're going to get smarter mice, and the mice, they're getting real smart. What have I said here today that has raised more questions than I've answered? Have I said something that you disagree with? Have I said something that you want to know more on? Whatever it is, please let me know. I would love to have these conversations with you. The best place to have those conversations is in my community, askcharlyleetham.locals.com. You can come across there and join the discussion there. You can always leave comments on these videos wherever you're watching or listening to them. I'll get to them eventually. If this video has been of use to you, maybe consider sharing it with someone else, because this is serious stuff, but maybe consider sharing it with someone else, and give it a like. That would be really helpful. I'd really appreciate that. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you find out when I drop more content. And I will see you guys the day after tomorrow. Bye. Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost. I hope today's episode gave you some actionable insights that will make your business tech work smarter for you. If you found value, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other small business owners who could use a daily boost. For more tips, tools, and resources, visit www.askcharlyleetham.com. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and let's make tech simple together.